Last day of our training five-step schedule. So we're looking at Thursday, April 26th. We're going to go through and talk about the Rumble and everything that comes after that. Let's see, tomorrow we're going to discuss the very end of the book, test coming up on Monday. Hopefully now, once again, you understand our movie picture we put up there. We're going to definitely get to that scene here in just a moment. Let's see where we left off with you guys. All right. So at the very end, we left off. Did we read the scene with you guys and Johnny?
Yes,
yesterday?
we did.
Stay gold.
Got to the stay in gold. So see, why does Tony go to the hospital then?
To see Johnny.
Not because of the concussion, although that would have been a good idea, but that's not why he goes. And what does it mean when Johnny says stay gold?
Be a good kid.
There you go. To keep being happy, stay a good kid, stuff like that. Then the other question I have is,
What are those?
that's a different question. It's when Johnny ends up dying from the scene we read yesterday. He doesn't just die from the injuries. There's another reason why he ends up passing away and dying at that moment.
Because of the fights of
He's
the greasers
tired.
and the socios, and he thinks that they shouldn't even be a thing, so he gets really mad and he just...
Quietly, not bad. Partly towards the end, beginning part, not as much.
He stopped breathing.
He does die hero. Because nothing happens to him that was any different than after he finished saving the fire and was laying there. It was sort of the same thing that whole time. The issue is, and what sort of causes him to die, would be, back up, what reason does he have to live?
No.
And that becomes the issue. He has no reason to live, because even if he lives, he has to go back and live with his parents, and he's crippled and forced to just sort of be in the house, can't go anywhere. And basically the whole, when they talk about someone's hurt and they're fighting to live and fighting to stay alive, Johnny was fighting to stay alive and then suddenly stops fighting to stay alive. Realizes there's no point in it and just gives up. As I had a kid ask earlier, it's like, does he commit suicide? Technically, I mean, he commits suicide by just no longer wanting to be alive and just sort of giving up and letting everything happen from there. How did Ponyboy get to the hospital?
He did try.
No.
Wait, how did he get to the hospital?
How did he get to the hospital?
Oh, they drove him.
Dally drove him there. And what does Dally do right after Johnny dies?
He goes around and does all
on the
this
wall.
stuff.
Takes off running and screaming, thus leaving Ponyboy still at the hospital with nothing to be able to do. And of course, he just had the concussion, the whole bloody head, ear thing, walking around not knowing what he was going to do.
Stands there and keeps crying.
And so how does it, he gets home,
A random stranger.
and that's where the story could have taken a much different turn.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like.
I mean, so you have Ponyboy, who just watched his best friend die, steps out of the hospital, wanders around a little bit trying to figure out where he's supposed to go, and then as he's wandering out in the middle of the road, he's like, I'm bleeding from the ears. And then all of a sudden, random guy pulls up, he's like, hey, little boy, you want to get in my car? And you're like, that story's not going to go where I think it is. Luckily, the guy turned out to not be a horrible person, and instead of being creepy, he actually gives Ponyboy a ride home. And to make it even better, Ponyboy ends up bleeding all over the guy's car, because that's where Ponyboy's bleeding from the head, and the guy's like, hey, you're bleeding in my car. Ponyboy's like, what? Spurt, spurt, spurt. He's like, you got blood everywhere. Ponyboy's like, smeared, I'm sorry. But he ends up giving Ponyboy the ride home, being as nice as he can. Problem is, once Ponyboy gets home, and then he gets out and goes in and talks to his brothers. Let's see, Soda Pop is there, Derry's there, and then Two-Bit and thank you, Steve. And the four of them, he has to break the bad news to them about what just happened to Johnny. He's like, hey, Johnny just died. They freak out. They get all this like, oh my God, Johnny died. While they're in the process of doing that, phone rings. Who calls them?
Dally, because he's like bleeding out the back.
And that's where we find out that apparently Dally did not react well to Johnny's death. Because as we mentioned earlier, what was Dally's
Johnny's
only goal?
innocence.
Keeping
Johnny being alive and Johnny's innocence, and now his gold is gone, takes away Dally's reason to be alive. So Dally goes out. Let's back up. What does Dally go out and do?
Steals a guy's
Yeah.
What does he use to do it?
the unammoed gun.
The gun without ammunition, which plays a big role here in just a moment. The fact that he knows the gun doesn't have ammunition, but he goes and robs the store. As soon as he robs the store, he leaves, calls his friends, and what does he want them to do?
Go meet him at the park.
Close, not the park,
The
lot.
the empty lot. He's like, hey, I just robbed a store. I need you guys to come help me out. Meet me in the empty lot. And of course, his friends, being friends, go, absolutely, we're going to meet you there. And so they go running off to meet him in the empty lot. So with the death of Dally, because, by the way, if you haven't read this far, surprise. So with what happens with Dally dying. No, it's because he hasn't read the story. So Dally calls his friends and says, hey, you need to meet me. What time of day is it when he does this?
Nighttime.
Middle of the night. Middle of the night. And so when he goes running into this empty lot, and in this scene, he could go anywhere in the entire lot that he wants to. But he runs to a very specific spot before he stops. Directly underneath the light post. Goes running in, runs until he gets directly beneath this light post, and then turns around and waits for the police to show up who are following him. About this exact same time, all of his friends show up. The Pony Boy, the two brothers, and then Two-Bit and Steve, all show up to watch this happen, right as they see Dally come running in from the other side, because they come running in from two opposite ends. Come running into it, Dally runs right into the street light, turns around, sees all of them. As soon as he does, pulls out
his gun, and
pulls out the gun, waits
cops
for the
shoot
police
him.
to show up. And as soon as the police show up, he starts aiming the gun at them. Can Dally shoot them?
No, because of no ammo.
He has no ammo in there. Do the police know that?
No.
And that's where the issue comes in. And of course, Dally's not dumb. He knows the fact that the police don't know the fact that it has no bullets in it. But when you point your gun at them, they're going to point their guns right back at you. He then acts like he's getting ready to shoot them. They act like they're getting ready to shoot him. They're much better actors than he is. So when they shoot him,
He dies.
they drop him and he dies. So then, once he dies, with all of his friends watching and they sort of freak out, the question becomes, it's like them coming in, freaking out, screaming over him.
Why did you do
Why? If Dally had planned all of this, why does he make his friends come and
So
watch?
that someone
they
else
can
didn't
see
have to
him
tell
all
him
the
that
time?
he's dead. So
that-
they already knew that he's dead.
One, it's his way of saying goodbye, but part of it is he wants them to know why he did it. And why did he do it?
Because Johnny's dead.
And with Dally, he wants to die in the coolest way possible. And the coolest way for a greaser to die,
Shot by the cops. Or the
being
fuzz.
shot by the police in a shootout. That way, when all the other greasers hear about what happened, they're going to hear that Dally got shot down by the police. And he has a legend that then lives on. Dally doesn't want to go out a hero, being known for saving kids. He wants to go out being known as a straight-up thuggy G. And the only way that's going to happen is if he gets shot down by the police. But the issue is, he wants his best friends to know what the real reason was. That's why he calls them. Because if he didn't call them and they just heard that he got shot down by the police, they wouldn't know that he did it on purpose. When he goes running in there and he sees them, looks at the police, pulls out the unloaded gun and points it, they start screaming because they know what's going to happen, and Dally wants them to see it. Really weird thing to do to your friends, going, I want you to watch me die. But for Dally, he's not good at showing emotions. For him, this is his way of trying to do that whole bonding, showing of emotions thing. And he tries to share it with his friends as best he can. He goes down. Problem is, as soon as he goes down, what happens to Pony Boy as soon as Dally gets shot? He sees it happen and then just kind of goes, ah, and then faints and passes out and hits the ground. Now, realize the whole book up until this point has taken roughly a week, almost exactly a week from that first day when he was walking home, getting jumped by those socialists coming home from the movie theater, till now is like a week and a day. From a Thursday to the next Saturday. Miles?
Okay, so see, you don't have to do that. Anyway, I remember when Pony Boy and Johnny hid out. How many days was that? Was that 1 week? That was like
They were only there for like 5-6 days, something like that. Now, realize everything that's happened to Pony Boy in this short amount of time. Starting with him walking home from school, or from walking from the movie theater, getting jumped and almost killed with a knife being held against his throat. And then from there, waking up the next day, going out, meeting really hot girls, having the time of his life, hanging out with really hot girls, getting scared by Dally because Dally was really rude to hot girls, walking home from there with the really hot girls with their boyfriends showing up, scaring them, almost getting into a fight, then going home, getting slapped by his brother, then running home, going to a park, at the park, then getting drowned, almost dying, waking up from being drowned to find out that your best friend just killed somebody, running away from home, spending the next several days hanging out, eating just bologna, and living in this one area by yourself that just you as another person, smoking a whole bunch of cigarettes, getting sick from that, then going out to eat a bunch of Dairy Queen, from the Dairy Queen, then going back to the church, at the church finding out that it's on fire, burning down, running into the church while it's on fire, burning down, going in there, saving children, throwing children out of a window, getting bit by little children, and then from there having the whole thing fall down, watching it crush your best friend, then going to the hospital, finding out that your best friend is not going to live much longer, going to, we're about a week in now, then going to the Rumble. At the Rumble, you're getting into a fight, getting beat up, getting kicked in the head, getting a concussion. From there, going to the hospital, watching your best friend die right in front of you, saying, stay cold. Then having to walk home and then get picked up by a random stranger who turned out not to be a creeper. Then from there, turning around, leaving right again, going out and watching another one who's not your best friend but someone you like get shot down right in front of you. That's a lot to have happen in 8 days. For most of you, any one of those items would be a big thing to have happen, let alone packing all of that in. When he passes out, his brain shuts down. It's basically his brain just going, and you're done. And turning it off, and he just goes right down to the ground and passes out. Casper?
How many times have you read this book?
A lot. So when he passes out and then ends up hitting the ground from there, that's when they end up taking him to the hospital. Although we don't know this because Ponyboy's story doesn't pick up for a couple days later. He wakes up, I think, it's like this was, they want to say it was Sunday morning. I think what they say in the book when all of this happened. And he doesn't wake up again until Tuesday. And then when he wakes up again on Tuesday, that's when all of this stuff has started back over again. And that's where we'll go from there. The drawback is, I can't go too much further at this point because
He's stuck in the Matrix.
you guys are, I'm stuck in the Matrix, I don't know how to get out. The fact that you guys are far enough ahead of my other class, I have to try and keep it somewhat balanced. So that way tomorrow we'll all be in the same area. Tomorrow, what I'm going to do is, if you've not finished the book, we're going to end up talking about the rest of the stuff that happens from there. If all you've done is pay attention to me doing the stuff out loud in class, you should do well enough to pass the easy version of the test. If you're wanting to do better than that, then that's definitely we're going to have to require to read it, because the questions I ask on the tougher one does not cover the stuff I'm doing in class with you. That's the stuff that is going to come from you reading and understanding the book. That's why it's the challenge version. But once again, you're welcome to try the challenge version if you want, but then you have a better chance of failing it and stuff like that. That'll be the option that's up to you from there. You do get a chance to look at both tests on that day. The drawback is you still have the same amount of time. So if you spend 15 minutes going through looking at both tests and then making your decision and then running out of time, you're going to be out of luck. So you have to make sure that you have enough time to finish when you choose. Joaquin. Yep. If you finish the book and then you do the crossword, you're more than welcome to use that on there. Once again, I'm not sure on the challenge one. I'm not sure to help you a whole lot. Mostly what the crossword's goal is just to remind you of everything that happened in the book. As far as the actual questions that will be on there won't be really questions that come from it, unless you do the lower end one. If you do the basic one, it'll probably help you more on there. The challenge one is more just to help you either get the points or to remind you about all the stuff that happened. McGuire?
So you said that we, sorry. So you said that we cap out at C plus, or
If you do the basic one,
if you do the basic
yes.
one, but like if you do the crossword and you get like they're like all done without cheating or anything like that, could you get a B on it?
Then you could take your extra credit. If you choose the crossword and then choose the extra credit, you can add that extra credit on top of it. And yes, that would probably get you up to the B plus. Roughly, it should work right around there. But that's saying that you got a perfect score on it and didn't miss anything, and then also added it in there.
Wait,
Absolutely an option.
Watch the movie.
Jacob?
can I finish the book today and then take the
Supposed to
crossword
already be finished,
today
Jacob.
and like do it while I'm like reading the book?
Wait till you finish the book. And then
But then the test is tomorrow.
is
It's
it?
on Monday.
Oh,
It's on Monday, Jacob.
oh, we finished the book tomorrow.